For a long time, the Apex Legends community has, let's call it, expressed dissatisfaction at a certain aspect of a few characters. You often see people say that Crypto, Wattson, or Pathfinder have no passive. This is really interesting for me, because to me, these characters have some of the most powerful single passive abilities in the game. It often makes me feel crazy when I read walls of people espousing that these are irrecoverable, bottom-of-the-barrel aspects of the game. I've thought about it a lot, and I've come to the conclusion that there are two central issues, sort of split across these characters, that lead to this perception. Their passives have poor documentation in their descriptions, and their passives contradict common expectations about where power should lie in a character's kit. Let's talk about the descriptions first. Have a look at the existing descriptions. Crypto's passive tells you that you and your teammates see what his drone sees up to a certain range. Pathfinder's passive says that scanning survey beacons grants you a cooldown reduction on your ultimate. Both of these are omitting some of the most powerful passive aspects of these legends. Pathfinder also immediately gains 100% ultimate charge when he uses the survey beacon, which means that he can easily gain access to his ultimate regularly, especially early on when it is most relevant for repositioning. Crypto has like 5 existing passives that are just never mentioned in game. Somehow he only got 2 lines of text for the most minor and intuitive aspect of his drone, while Wattson has 4. These descriptions need to be changed to reflect their actual abilities. Crypto can scan champion banners to determine the number of enemies nearby and use his drone to interact with objects or pick up banners. Any one of these abilities is his real passive ability, and that should be introduced to players so that they can better understand what they should be thinking about when playing these characters. The second issue is that both Pathfinder and Wattson have very powerful passives that are explicitly designed to enable their ultimates. I think this is really cool design. It's pretty interesting to have your ult frequently available, and I like how it feels more like an extra piece of your repertoire instead of a massive investment. Unfortunately, this seems to have created an issue for people assessing these characters. Their ultimates are both not particularly strong, because if they were strong and accessible often, it would be ridiculous. An easy way to prove this point is to imagine if Bloodhound or Gibraltar had Wattson's passive. Not a super pleasant idea, huh? This is a harder issue to address. I really love their design, and I think that the passives don't objectively need changing. However, players want to associate ultimates as just that, a supreme, game-changing ability. It reminds me of a principle Mark Rosewater talks about when designing a Magic the Gathering set. If your theme isn't in every pack of cards, it isn't your theme. Similarly, if an ultimate is less powerful but easily accessible, it's not really an ultimate ability. I think that maybe, especially in Wattson's case, it could be reasonable to scale back the power of her passive to allow her ultimate to be more impactful. If it's incredibly powerful but people still aren't getting that, at some point fun is more important than interesting design. But part of what makes these issues difficult to broach is that the characters are already balanced in a way that compensates for where their abilities are. Even if these passives are terrible, the character can't just have a big ol' buff to it because the rest of their kit is designed to put them in a fair place without it. If you wanted to change Wattson to fit what people expected, you'd likely have to include a nerf to make it shake out. Something like this recently happened with Lifeline. She had a chunk of power shifted from her passive to her other abilities. I have ideas for how to do this, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Maybe I'll think about it and form some specifics for another one. To recap, I think that there are 2 major problems with characters that have no passive. Either their passives are poorly explained, which results in easy misunderstandings, or they're designed in a way that contradicts conventional expectations. The first one is likely pretty easy to fix. It's mostly text, maybe a new image for Crypto's passive that could take a lot of work to make. The second one is more gnarly, and it takes some genuine balance or design changes. Ideally, even though a huge part of Wattson's passive would be taken away, people would see it as, whatever, the passive was bad anyway, but now her ult is great. The situation is funny to me, because Respawn have reiterated constantly that Wattson objectively rates surprisingly highly, but the community rejects that idea every time. I'm excited to see if Respawn change this character in a way that looks like a buff given the existing player perspective without actually increasing her power level.